What is going on, YouTube? It is Primitive here, and today I'm going to be bringing you one of the rounds from our Highlander event that happened at J&J's Games here the other day. If you don't know what Highlander is, that is the format where you are only able to play one of each card number in your deck. So you can play cards with the same name, such as playing the Promo Patamon as well as playing the Memory Patamon, but you can't play two of the same card with the same number. So we're going to have 50 different cards in our main deck and 5 different eggs in our egg deck. So getting on into it, I'm going to play this Caesarmon out. I could go in for jamming here, but I can see with the Greymon that they would be able to just swing straight over it. And since there is an Agumon in there, they are going to be able to swing 2 checks with that Greymon, hitting the Takumi on the first swing. So that could be good for getting some draws later. But we're going to see the opponent go for the Volcanic Dramon, which is going to pop both my Digimon, anything with 4k DP or less. Gonna play the Pulsemon first since I can play it for 2 as well as draw, and that lets me look for another rookie to put into raising and get some more draws going. Now I could have Digivolved the Meikumon onto Pulsemon here and got the extra draw, and I should have done that. I wanted to build up in raising, but with my hand right now looking at it, I could have gone for more draws, and Digivolving on top of the Pulsemon so I could get the Takumi draw would have been a little bit better. So now as you're gonna see, I'm just gonna hard play because I don't have ultimates or champions, and that extra draw would have been pretty important if I were able to hit it. But we're just going to hard play the Kentorismon. My hand at this point is just a bunch of megas, so this was just the cheapest mega that I could play. The Volcanic Dramon's going to swing in for 2 swings and hit the Valderarm go down, and then the Greymon will hit the Eden's Javelin, which will take it out because I believe I have 7 cards in hand. Thinking about playing down the Fugumon, I'm going to play down the Mat and then Transcendent Sword, giving the minus 11k, and on deletion I have no target. So right now I'm going to have to find recovery or blocker. So Digivolving into the Angelmon gives me the recovery. A slight little mix up there where I put the security down before I drew from the Takumi, so I put it back, drew it, and then put down the other security, so that way we had the right ordering there. But I still need some sort of blocker and try to get some defense. I'm going to play the Kari, and I have the 1 check, so I am technically safe right here. My opponent's going to swing. The Kari doesn't matter because my opponent does have the Yagunimon. Now, going into game 2, I want to go second because I do play a more control-y style list when I built this, and so I want to be getting those extra draws and be reacting to what my opponent's doing here. And also, my hand was a little bit bricky that first game, so I wanted to make sure that I could get that extra draw and try to unbrick. We're going to get the TK this time, which is pretty good. No memory choking, and I'm able to search something out. I can grab the Lord Nightmon, which is just a 1-of, and that's going to be a very powerful mega, even if you don't have the Nightmon, just because you're able to drop 3 drops, and there's a lot of good 3 drops in here, such as like Bushi and Lucamon and just all the other normal rookies that we already play. Going to play the Sirenmon, putting my opponent to 3. I'm not as worried about them being able to clear it, just because they would have to use something like Transcendent Sword, and then if they don't clear it, then I can just go straight into Lord Nightmon on top of it. My opponent does go with the Metal Greymon here. Going to choose to attack here, tapping the Marcus so they only do the 4 memory instead of the 5. The second check, the Eden's Javelin won't go through, and then the third check coming in because it does have those extra security attack plus 2. And it will go down to the Kodamon because the Eden's Javelin did give it enough DP reduction to where it was at, I believe, just 1k DP, but maybe 2k DP, but it will go into that Kodamon and go down, so that's pretty good for me. My opponent did give me 4 memory. They did get a lot of checks off, but they don't have anything in raising, and now I can just go straight into a Magnadramon. Recover 2, I figured I had enough memory there that if I was going to hard play the Magnadramon, that this was probably the best time to do it, to give my opponent the least amount of memory, especially when they don't have anything in raising coming out, and then I can get those 2 extra security now, and then when I start attacking, I can swing in and drop extra rookies, and when paired up with the Lord Nightmon that we know is in my hand, that can also drop even more rookies, so I can really start going wide on the board and start playing some of my more impactful cards, such as the Magnadramon and the Lord Nightmon. But we're going to see my opponent build up. I did give them a lot of memory to do so, so Rise Greymon and raising, and they do have the Greymon on the board, which is going to be able to swing for multiple checks if they choose to. This is a turn that really shows how I was approaching playing this style of deck, because my opponent has the Greymon, which can swing 2 checks, and they have a Rise Greymon in back, which could potentially Digivolve into something else that could get more checks, and then we do know that there's the Agunimon in back, so I wanted to try to play it as safe as possible. I didn't have a lot of rookies to really play off the Magnadramon or the Lord Nightmon yet, and so I wanted to wait one more turn. Playing the Magnadramon out now gives me back up to 5 security, so that there's no way that they can kill me this turn. And then next turn I'm going to be able to pretty much threaten to not entirely go for game, but I'll likely be able to clear off most of the board, especially with this Rise Greymon now suspended. And then once I get a firm level of board control with this deck, that's when I will start going in. I don't want to risk hitting things like Gaia Force and Security or anything like that when I can just start to secure the board and start going in for game. My opponent's going to play the Tie-In Mat, which will be annoying because I'm pretty much going to have a level 6 out for the remainder of the game. But looking at my hand here, I'm just trying to plan out what I want to go for, but I do know that my main priority is going to be clearing off the board, so I'm going to Digivolve into the Lord Knight. I Digivolve on top of the Magna Angemon, so that way I can get the Inheritable, but I'm going to be able to swing over and drop my one of Nightmon to be able to pop the Greymon. So Lord Nightmon, even in the Highlander format, is still being pretty toxic. But such is the life of a yellow player in BT5. But now I'm going to play the Kari. This makes it so my opponent's memory gain is going to be shut down a little bit because they are going to be going to 5 pretty much no matter what because of the Marcus and the Tie-In Mat. So playing the Kari makes it so that I can play on my opponent's turn essentially. I did think the purple Kari was going to be pretty important in this format, just considering the fact that there are going to be limited memory tamers in this format, and so I wanted to make it so that I could play on my opponent's turn. But now I'm going to start swinging in and see if I can just go for game here. Swing with the Nightmon, swing with the Lord Knight, and then go in with game with Sirenmon and tie up this series 1-1. Now, getting into game 3, I'm feeling a bit more confident because I did feel like that second game went a little bit better. I did have some pretty good combos with the Lord Nightmon into Nightmon and being able to play the Magnagmon when there's nothing on board, which really kind of helped me get ahead. But I do have a lot of recovery cards. That was my main focus of this deck. But we're going to see turn 1, my opponent Digivolve the Agumon and actually had to pay 1 memory to Digivolve. And then I'm going to go double Salamon here. I'll promote. I might as well promote it out. I don't know exactly when I'm going to be able to activate the Salamon unless they want to swing in with this Agumon Expert, but I want to get it on board now so I can threaten that recovery and hope that they just can't clear it before I go to 3. Gonna grab the Lucemon out now because I do know my opponent has a pretty aggressive deck and they're gonna want to swing a lot, so I want to get my recovery cards and make sure that I'm able to keep recovering up, because if I have to do the go to 0, go to 1 train, then I am willing to do that. The Nightmon was the other card that I was considering taking out of my security there, but I decided, like I said, to go with the Lucemon for the recovery instead of the DP reduction, because I do believe I have Lord Nightmon in my hand, and so I was thinking about what's going to be the best play to swing with Lord Nightmon. And so we came up with the Lucemon for the recovery. Gonna swing with the Salamon to try to get the recovery, but they're gonna hit the Gaia Force and pop the other Salamon. So the Salamon will stay on the board, which is slightly unfortunate because I would have preferred the recovery, but it's not that big of a deal because even if it gets deleted on my opponent's turn, I will still be able to recover, and then worst case scenario, I can go in next turn and swing with it, but they are gonna swing over it and I will recover. And then Transcendent Sword's gonna come out and pop my Sirenmon. Doesn't want me getting up into a Mega quite yet. But they just have a 5k Greymon on board, so I want to try and get rid of this. I'm looking at my hand and I don't have the cards to really get rid of this in a good way, and so I'm going to have to do something that I'm not super happy about here, which is Digivolve into the Pitomon and look for the ultimate so that way I could Digivolve into something and swing over, but I'm whiffing it, so I decide that my best play is just going to be able to get rid of this Greymon so that way it's not swinging 2 checks, and I don't want it to Digivolve, so I'm just going to swing, pay the 2 memories so that they trade so I can reset the board. I'm not too worried, like I said, I'm just trying to play defensively. And then I'm going to play the Chromon out, getting back up to putting my opponent to 3, and this makes it so that I have an ultimate on board, can go into a Mega. My opponent's just going to hard play the Metal Greymon, so both of us just hard playing some ultimates. Mine was a little bit cheaper, which is going to give me the memory advantage going into the turn. I have 4, so I can very freely go into Nightmon here, or Lord Nightmon here, and then I can swing and play down the Lucemon, which is going to allow me to recover the Lucemon that we did see earlier. And I was able to survive in the check. There are some pretty big DP cards in my opponent's deck, including like Omnimons and stuff, so it is a little bit of a scary check, but I need to start getting things on board and start being able to swing in for game. Going into Altruist mode for 1, no target to be able to delete because my Falcomon is 5k and not the 4k. So narrowly avoiding that deletion, but it is pretty important because my opponent does have 3 security, and I'm going to have 4 Digimon next turn if they don't delete anything on this turn, which means that I could potentially go for game, considering that there's not going to be any security checks. But we saw Gaia Force already, and they played Transcendent Sword, so the amount of cards that are actually going to be super threatening are relatively low, and then I can threaten to even just go more wide with Lord Nightmon, even if they do clear some of the board, and then make it so I have like a 2-turn lethal instead of just a 1-turn lethal. But see what my opponent's going to go for here. They can go into a Mega, or they could try and go into a blocker, and they're just going to go into the War Greymon. This does delete blockers, but I don't have any blockers on board. They're just trying to get something in cycle, get something on board just in case it sticks. Going to swing with the Lord Nightmon, play the Patamon. And then I can just continue to swing in with Lucamon, Falcomon, and then Starmon's finishing off. So I was able to take this after getting pretty destroyed game 1, and then having a little bit better game 2, and then game 3 I felt like I was pretty far ahead once I got that Lord Nightmon out. But with that being said, this is going to be the first Highlander match. I'm going to post a couple more of these matches from this event today, just so you guys can get some little Highlander content, get something a little bit different than the BT5 that we've been stuck with. But with that being said, I will see you later today. I hope you have a great day. Peace out.